I think people find it helpful, especially at the beginning of their awakening moment or whatever we want to call it, right? I think they find it helpful to talk about it, to find people who understand what they're talking about,
Mhm.
maybe support groups or whatever we want to call them, or just, other survivors, or reading stuff, reading other people's stories. And I mean, I see recovery as sort of a roller coaster where you're going to go through periods where that's all you want to do and think about. And then there are going to be times it's like, I don't want to even hear the word cult anymore. And I just want to, like, go to water world or whatever people do. I don't know. Like, I
What
just
do
want,
people do when they're actually retired?
I just want to be life.
Right, yeah.
Um, so I think that there's kind of that up and down, and I think it's different for every person. I think for some people, they're gonna speak out for a while, and then they've kind of that was enough, and they'll go off and do their life, and maybe never talk about it again, at least publicly.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas other people might end up doing it for a few years, or I mean, I don't know that I intentionally did it this way, but obviously this is what I did. It's like
Mhm.
I can't think of. I mean, I certainly had years when I did less of this, and but it was always some part of what I was doing, either
Right.
writing a book or giving talks or whatever, teaching it in my
Mhm.
classes. When I was teaching, I couldn't do as much because we had such a high teaching load, but that's when I wrote Escaping Utopia. That was one of my research projects. So, I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think some people don't ever want to speak out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah,
obligation.
for sure.
That's something that comes up all the time in our classes, is like people, they go to work and people want to know, well, what did you do for the last 10 years? And it's like, how do you talk about that? Do you start talking about it and then you start flooding and it's like, blah, and you tell the whole story and everybody looks at you like they're nuts? Or you just shut up and then you act like a weirdo, and
Uh-huh.
so like everybody has to sort through that.
Yeah.
And we always suggest do a lot of practice runs, like if you're going to be a social situation, practice what you're going to say when you get asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it
you're
can
not
definitely
caught off
be,
guard.
especially in the beginning, and be so awkward and
Yeah.
triggering, right?
Oh,
So
it
it's
can be
almost better to
awful.
not say anything. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but then
for
if you don't
sure.
say anything, then it's like,
Eventually.
you're like this real
Right.
silent person. I
Yeah.
just now when people ask about like a certain band or something, I just say, that was my blackout period. I don't know about what happened between,
Right.
75 and 85.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.